Ladies and gentlemen, ATV Productions would like to welcome you to Tea Time with Aladdin. Good morning, tea timers. What is going on? It has been way too long. I again apologize for my absence. I know it's been a bit. School, I'm telling you. If it wasn't for school, I'd be doing this very frequently. As well as planning. A lot of planning in advance. A lot of topics I've been trying to conjure in my head and make sure I bring you guys the cream of the crop of the material that I want to present to you guys, But most importantly, it takes a minute to make this tea in the morning, Sipping on a nice cup of Earl Grey with some milk to those of you who are Earl Grey fans. I used to drink Earl Grey just plain, but then I got into an argument with a British lady in the hospital when I used to work there, and how if you have Earl Grey in the morning, you should never have it without milk. So that's exactly what I do now. And, one of the things that I want to talk about is, this isn't the topic, but just to get the morning started, is, well, first off, it's Friday. So happy Friday, everybody. I hope you guys are going to have a great weekend. I hope you guys do something fun, do something outdoors. I mean, if you can do something outdoors. I know it's getting colder out, in the world, so it's still warm as hell out here, so I don't got nothing to worry about on those lines. I might go to the beach later today just to get some sun. I look like Rambo after a really bad day. I look like Rambo mixed with Hugh Jackman from X-Men, Wolverine style, except I'm just not that attractive. But, enjoy yourself. Take, a short break from your day, whether you got school, whether you got work. Enjoy some fresh air for a change and, just do something exciting with yourself. Listen to some good music, because I have some good music coming your way today, as well as for future episodes. I've been reaching out to a lot of artists and, making sure I get their permission to use their music. So I got some good stuff coming to you. As always, the intro music and intermission music that you hear is from the wonderful and talented Alan Gogol. And I hope you guys are still enjoying that. Let's see. There's a couple of things that I wanted to discuss before we actually got the show started. First off, I want to talk to the listeners out there. I want to first and foremost thank you guys for your support and for listening to the show. I have a few, honorable mentions. We have a lot of listeners out from Texas, Illinois, and Ohio, so shout out to you guys. Also, shout out to my Ohio people, because without you, I'd be nowhere. I also want to go ahead and give a shout out to a listener out in New Zealand. If you are listening to this, I appreciate you, and I hope you love tea, because that's exactly what we do here. We sip on tea and we talk about good stuff, Oh, and listen to good music, because obviously without the music, we're nothing. But I want to go ahead and, again, thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you guys for sharing, because, we've had an increase in listeners lately, so I'm very content with that. And that just makes me, feel appreciated. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. Without you, I have nothing. But all that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the show. And I want to go ahead and start our first topic off with something very, very funny. Now, I've been going through, Facebook a lot recently. I've been having a very reminiscent, I guess you could say sensation feeling going on. Haven't been on Facebook too often. I try not to, because, there's just too much toxicity in the world. I mean, right now especially, it's just politics. I mean, I know we're all involved in a certain way, but at a certain point you just get sick of it. I'm also sick of memes. Don't get me wrong, I love the memes, but there's just too many. That's just too much. You don't see any like good quality material these days. But it's always, what I find really funny is the fact that a lot of the stuff that we see, or at least that I see, I don't know, maybe you guys have more exciting lives than I do, but I always see a lot of my friends or family, and they're all living life, and everyone's just talking about how old they are and how old we are and how we can't do things like we used to. And that's pretty much what inspired the topic today, was doing things that we used to do as kids that we don't do as adults. Now, I am a firm believer that whatever you choose to do as an adult is, your choice. Also goes along with your mentality, because if you tell yourself you can't do something, then of course you won't be able to do it. If you tell yourself that you can do it and you put your mind to something, you really can do it. Now, as you get older, that might be a little bit more work, but it is doable. And I'm not trying to get into like some like hardcore things. I'm just trying to go into some like goofy things. I know a lot of my friends, they're always talking about like getting back into health, getting back into shape, getting healthy again. And next thing you know, they're like, oh, I can't do this anymore because I'm not that young. Let me tell you, I have seen old men and women kicking ass in those gyms. And I mean, they're fit. Fitter than I am, which is kind of sad. I'm a pretty fit guy. But like at the same time, I see these guys and like 70-year-old man flexing on me. I'm just like, whoop, time for me to leave before he kicks my ass. But, stuff like that. I always feel that you can always do something. As long as you're willing to take the time and you put effort into doing it, you can do whatever you need to do. One of the things, though, I like going back to, like reminiscing, is just like going outside and playing. I love being able to play outside, but again, as adults, we don't see it too often. I think that one of the things that I love to do, especially during like a nice windy day in Michigan, I always keep a kite in my trunk of my car. One, I love flying kites. Two, it's also good pickup for chicks. So to all my fellas out there, let me just let you know. Keep a kite in your trunk. Let the girl know that you got a kite. And they're going to be like super like surprised by it. And then they're always going to go fly the kite with you. Great ground pleaser. I mean, I promise you, you'll never have a better date than that. Ladies, I'm sure this would work for you too. I'm not really too sure how often guys fly kites. I like to think I'm the anomaly, but all things aside, guys, kites, trunk, be good at it. Carrying on though, after I graduated college for the first time in 2017, a lot of my friends were still in school. So during the summer, I was like, man, what are some things that we can do like just to get together? Because I'm not a drinker. I don't drink. I don't do drugs either. Shout out to my clean folk. I'm a pretty straight edge kind of guy, but at the same time, my thing was, I want to be able to just go out with my friends and do something that isn't like, you got to go to the bar every 5 seconds, even though Detroit's got some great barcades, which I'm a huge fan of, video games. Who doesn't love a nice video arcade game? But I wanted to do something that was just, enjoyable for everybody, something that we can all do, hang out, get together. If anyone wanted to bring some like snacks or drinks, they can do it. So what I did was think about all the things that we could get together and do, because I'm like the planner. I'm like the party planner of the group. To all my party planners out there, every group needs that planner. I happen to be that planner. Also means that we have to be on time, which I am decent with, but I'm not the best at. But that's other alternative reasons that I won't get into too much detail with. Now, again, I was thinking to myself, what could we do? Like, we're grown people, so what is it possibly that I can do? So you know what I did? I went out to the store. I bought 2 rubber balls that you would play with kickball. And that's exactly what I did. I just sent out a huge message, like invite to a giant kickball tournament. Well, it wasn't really a tournament, but just, kickball. Everyone, come on out. Let's go play kickball. Literally. Just pick a place. I found a place in a park, and we just played kickball. And a lot of people actually turned up. Not the people from, like, out of country, but, a lot of people showed. And I was so happy with the turnout because it was literally like being a kid again. And I don't know. There's something about just being able to go out and enjoy the fresh air, good company with your friends, and to just kick a ball. I mean, afterwards, it kind of got a little violent because then we started playing, dodgeball, and then everyone started getting really competitive. And next thing you know, it turned out from a friendly game of kickball to a very angry war in a park with a bunch of spectators watching as grown people play kickball. So it escalated pretty quickly. I was semi-okay with it, but at the same time, it was supposed to be a friendly event and not, anything too crazy. But, you get my point. Another thing that I always wanted to do, which now that I think about it, after I went to a concert not too many years ago, a Matt and Kim concert, I wanted to do those giant tarp things that we did in gym class back in elementary school, where you lift it up and then you had to run around to the other side while the thing was in the air. So I was legit contemplating on buying it. Well, of course, I'm very happy that I didn't, because after experiencing what I experienced at the Matt and Kim concert at the House of Blues in Cleveland, Ohio, those things are disastrous and they smell horrible in certain situations. They threw it on the crowd and everybody was just going crazy underneath it. Let's just say I will never use those things ever again in my entire life. But so it's just certain things like that that I'm interested in and that I'm talking about today. Back again, I think I talked about this last episode, but going back into scooters and biking and rollerblading. Now, rollerblading is without a doubt one of my favorite things to do. I don't know if any of you guys remember that movie, Brink. Well, after watching that movie, I thought I was the badass rollerblader. Well, let's just say I'm not a badass rollerblader. I'm okay, but I'm not the badass. And let's just say some situations you should not be trying to show off and, end up dying while rollerblading. But, the same thing happened to me when I was trying to skateboard for the first time. I had a skateboard, and it was Jimmy Neutron's skateboard. I'll never forget it. Tried to be that skater guy, Well, let's just say I'm not a skateboard kind of guy. I was doing it in my garage, and I crashed, and I fell. And it was the most devastating fall. Never will I ever do it again. But, you learn in life. Lessons learned. Bike. I love my bike. Literally, I ended up buying a bike, and I use it as when I'm back home, that's my main form of transportation. But but you see what I'm saying? Going to the park. People take their kids to the park, but how many times can actually say that you yourself went to the park because you enjoy going to the park? Aside from going to the park to work out or run on the trail and all that jazz, which is essentially what everyone does. But it's things like that I wish we can, do again. And yeah, sometimes it may look weird, but it's the whole point is being able to do the things that you say you can't do anymore because you're an adult. Well, I'm a firm believer that no matter what you do, you can still live a lifestyle as you did. Well, again, everything has its limits. I'm not trying to tell you to go and do some Daredevil, Evel Knievel kind of stunt, but just within your limits. Know your limits, people. As we age, we're all going in decline. Our bones are degenerating as we speak. I've hit that peak now. So from this point on in my life, I know that my body is just going to start deteriorating. So I got to be careful with it. But at the same time, life's a risk. Live wild, guys. Live while we're young. Because once I get wrinkles, I already got a wrinkle. But once I get more of them and I start, looking all droopy like the Crypt Keeper, I know I'm still going to be a badass. So I want all of you guys to be those badasses that you were as kids, as adults, all right? Now keep that in mind as you process that, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next subject, all right? Now, I started off with that one because it's a huge transition topic for this new topic that I have. And my new topic is the transition from our teenage years to adult years. Now, I'm not talking about things that we used to do, what we used to play with, going to the park, like I was just talking about. I now want us to talk about the people that we were in high school and as we change through college. obviously you see a lot more, you learn a lot more, you meet new people, you experience new things, which is all a part of life. But it always cracks me up when you see that one kid. Let's just go back to high school. So I'm gonna tell you how this all started. So I was on YouTube and I was watching a bunch of videos just about I was in band in school. Now I was going to do marching band, but I had too many other prior responsibilities, football, and then I was working at the time, and I was like, I can't do this, so I just stopped showing up. Now, mind you, my band director despised me afterwards, and the man would never look me in the eyes ever again in class. So I kind of dirtied myself on that one in my name, but we're just gonna go ahead and pretend that I'm not a betrayer. But anyways, so I was looking at our old, not old, new drumline team, and I was like, wow, they're actually pretty decent. And then of course I stumbled upon old ones, and I watched a couple of videos that my school posted after I graduated, and I saw my teachers, the faculty. I was tight with the faculty. Always, let me tell you guys, if you guys are tight with your school faculty, if any of you guys are young people, then you have it in. Even if you're in college, be tight with the faculty, and I'm telling you, life is easy. They always vouch for you, all the above. I was in a fraternity, and, I met with a lot of the head people, and one of the dean of students, he liked me for some odd reason. I mean, obviously, I'm polite, I'm kind, I'm beautiful. What is there not to like? Now, I ended up having a good rep with him, and whenever I did something, something I would have to get in trouble for, he would look down upon me, but he would not be too upset with me. Obviously, there was things I had to get permission for, but regardless, be tight with your faculty, guys, because they can help you in times of need. I can't stress that enough. Now, back to the main point at hand. So I'm looking at everything, and I was just like, man, I haven't seen this person. I wonder what they're up to. So I start looking on Facebook. First things first, one of the biggest transitions that I still can't get over is as I scroll through my feed or social media, anything, half these people, I don't even know who they are anymore, because I look at these names and I was just like, who is this and why am I friends with them? Then I look that it's, oh yeah, I went to school with them, they just got married and they changed their name. Or they got married multiple times and changed their name multiple times. Now, I get so confused. I'm still not married, as I've discussed, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who are listening to this can relate. But when you are all of a sudden just like, oh, who are these random people that I am friends with? And you just find out that they're all married. You're just like, damn, why is everyone getting married but me? And then you start thinking to yourself, you're like, did I do something wrong? What did I do in life that got me to being single and in school still? Nonetheless, I'm happy for all my friends, and I'm happy to see them all happy, married, with kids. And, it's so crazy. But I also love the fact that a lot of my friends who get married, have kids, are people that you've never expected them to get married so soon and have kids. Which is the biggest mind-blowing, sensation, because it just really goes to show, how you change growing up. But then again, I don't see them as often as I used to, so I don't really know if they have changed. And then, of course, you still see some of the same group of people that still hang out, now that they used to hang out then. So sometimes it's nice seeing the transition. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's interesting. So I love looking at that. I don't know if you guys do that, but again, I just recently had this moment of reminiscent, right? But then another one that really cracked me up was the people who became parents first were the people who didn't want to have kids right away, or somebody who said that they weren't going to have kids. I always love hearing people say, oh, I'm never having kids. Oh, no, I don't want them. Not going to have them. Oh, well, what if your significant other wants you to have kids? I don't care. They can find somebody else who was going to have kids with, which is so rude. But all that aside, they're the ones who always end up with kids. And that is what always makes me laugh. And I was, again, same thing happened. I was like, you pull out the yearbook. I don't know how often you guys pull out the yearbook, but I do it maybe once every 2 years or so. And then I know when we were supposed to have a reunion last year before I came to school, I wanted to go to it, but again, I was working. And, when you work for a hospital, it's really hard to do anything. Now, I was supposed to go, so I was like, let me go see who's, everyone on the pages, who's everyone's supposed to be going. Granted, it wasn't like a full-on reunion, and then on top of that, not everybody went, so I guess I didn't feel as bad, because, if you want to go to a reunion, you want to go to, like, the big 10-year reunion, everyone's going to be there. So, I mean, technically, my 10 years is going to be in 2 more years. So, that'll be a reunion I would love to go to. Now, considering all of that, like I said, the ones that you expect to do something are the complete opposite. And then, of course, you go to the kids who used to, like, party like monsters and now are, like, the well-respected Wall Street people. Or, they're the ones that are, like, very political, which they are very political. Or at least in my world, they are. And I just always find it super... I just want to know, like, you ever think about if you never left somewhere, what, how you would have turned out? Or, like, how that would have impacted you? So it always makes me think about stuff like that. But, I love the ones that, like, I think the only people that stayed true to who they were from, like, childhood, teenage years to adulthood are the ones that do drugs. Now, if they're doing drugs back in high school, they're still doing drugs now, and you see it everywhere. But, we're not hating on them, because I know many people who are very successful, and they do drugs. I'm not telling you to go out and do drugs. Drugs are bad. But, the world leads you down many pathways, whether that's a good path or a bad path. Just make sure you stay on the good path. But I also want to go into the kids who are like, they used to go clubbing 24/7, right? And then they used to be out at the bars until closing time, and they never left. I still have friends like that. But those are the ones that always end up leading this, like, responsible life. But then you have the ones that are, like, stuck in the past, and they're still living life, getting wild, turning up every, weekend whenever they get the chance to. Which, I salute you. Like I said, do the things that you used to do as you were young. If you can still do it while you're 30, don't stop. I have a friend who does that. I won't say your name, but I know you know who you are. So, essentially, I just love thinking about how other people think about me. Because if these are things that I'm thinking about when other people are going out and, living their lives, I wonder what people stop and think about, like, I wonder what Aladdin's like. Wonder what he is doing. But, the transitions are interesting, and I love seeing it. I'm happy for everyone who ends up leading a good, healthy, happy life. I'm happy to see all my friends with their families. I'm happy to see, everyone enjoying their lives, and I'm happy to see that everyone's doing good and that they're alive and they're healthy, because that's the most important part. So even though I may be talking a little shit right now, I am happy to see everyone living their lives, regardless of how you used to be and compared to how you are now, because obviously we all grow. We all become, what we want to be. But just know, if you were a douchebag then and you're still the douchebag now, we still don't like you. That's never going to change, and I'm proud to say that. So, the inspiration to this last topic stems from many, many things. First and foremost, I have been watching Back to the Future because it's been coming on TV like crazy. Obviously, I feel like Back to the Future is not the right time because it's Halloween season, and I've been watching like crazy amounts of horror movies, starting to make me feel like I'm a psycho killer. But Back to the Future, I've watched all 3 like maybe 5 times, not joking. 1, 2, 3 in order, 5 times in the last month. And it always makes me think about time travel, right? So our topic today is about time travel. Now, the main point when it comes to Back to the Future is when they predicted the future in Back to the Future 2, when they said 2015, was going to be like this. And if you haven't watched Back to the Future, I will again tell you that 1, your parents raised you wrong. 2, get out there and expand your horizons with better movies. What are you guys watching? Like the Wiggles reunion? Like, open your eyes to good movies. Like, come on. But many spoilers. In 2015, Back to the Future 2 predicted that we were going to have hoverboards, that we were going to have jackets that could dry us, which would become very handy when it rains. They also predicted flying cars. Now, I'm actually okay with the fact that the prediction of flying cars has not happened yet, because if we can't even drive on the roads, what makes us think that we can drive in the sky? Those are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. And I'm so happy that we don't, because things would be falling from the sky, and I'm just not ready for that kind of commitment or trauma in my life. Now, back to the whole hoverboard thing. I would love to have a hoverboard. Hopefully it's not as scary as having a skateboard, because as I just explained to you, me and skateboards do not mesh well. So I'd like to hope that hoverboards would do me much better justice. But to see that future is not anywhere close to what we have, I'm sad, but it's okay. Let's look at Blade Runner, iRobot. You know, Blade Runner, I mean, it's very similar to like the whole futuristic-esque of, flying cars, the way the world is, the guns, the weapons. Let's go to, iRobot. iRobot, a world full of robot helpers just helping us out. And, the technology industry, like AI industry, they're very adamant on robots nowadays. And we've seen it. Ex Machina, if you guys have ever watched it, great movie. But, we're stuck on this, concept of having robots. I mean, look at Tesla. Don't get me wrong, Elon Musk is a brilliant dude. But the whole self-driving car, all that mumbo-jumbo, I'm not about it. Because, 1, robots will eventually be the downfall of mankind. And I'm not trying to go out like that. And if I have to, I will kill some robots. I'm not ashamed. I will do it. I feel sorry for any robot like Rosie from the Jetsons, because she's the kind one until she goes evil. See, they can always go evil. This is why robots are bad. We don't want robots. Ladies and gentlemen, repeat with me. We don't want robots. Even if you think it'd be cool, we don't want robots. No AI, intelligent, artificial life. We know it's nothing good comes from it. Eventually, they will rise up and take over. But enough of my conspiracy theories. My main point is I love these predictions that they give us for the future. Obviously, it's all the imagination and the hope of what could be and the potential that could be, which we're not too far. Let's look at Star Trek, right? Star Trek was way above its time because the things that they created were essentially like cell phones. We don't have teleporting devices yet, thank God. But I don't know, thank God. Maybe teleporting devices would be cool. But then that goes into like the whole idea of like, are we still the same person after we teleport? Because it like breaks our bodies into our particles and all that. Now, again, I'm not going to get too heavy into that. That's too complex of science right there. But we will talk about it once upon a time. But you know what I'm saying? Like the future that they predict is so crazy. And sometimes we get close to that future and sometimes they try to lead to that future. But I feel that we should just leave the future alone, because I feel like the more we predict our future, the less we neglect on how it's actually turning out based off of present events. Which is, one of my poll questions to you guys is, what are some things that you would like to see in the future? Or like from movies or just from like TV shows, anything. What are things that you guys look forward to in the future? Another thing that inspired this topic was Black Mirror. I love Black Mirror. I literally just binged the entire, show not too long ago. It's such a good show. But it just makes you think. Because the way technology is, that's the route that we're trying to head in. And a lot of the stuff that they talk about, in a way, do resemble what goes on today. Whether it be about social media, whether it be about robots, again, artificial intelligence, how our military does things. It's obviously not 100% accurate, but there's ties and things that are relevant to it that make it very real in a sense. And sometimes it's scary. It really is, because that future is close because we work towards that future. But again, that's why I'm trying to get to the whole idea, like we should focus on the present, because look at what's happening nowadays. Now, time traveling to the future is definitely not something I see happening anytime soon, no matter what, physicist or conceptualist ideas are out there nowadays. No offense to Neil deGrasse Tyson, but the future in time travel I don't see is a thing anytime soon, which I'm okay with because, as I just said, based off of what people predict the future will look like, it's a scary place. I mean, we already refuted the demise of the world in 2020 or 2012. So, I mean, that's one part of the future that I do appreciate. Y2K, no, we didn't die. So I'm happy in those regards. Everything else, though, we need to tone it down just a little bit. But though we can't travel to the future, I do believe that we can travel to our past. There's many ways to do this because we came from the past. We are results of the past. So we ourselves are essentially, I guess, remnants of the past because of our ancestors. And if you know your ancestral history, kudos to you guys. I've tried doing it. It's very hard because, again, my family comes from the Middle East. I do believe my uncle had did some research and he made a family tree, which I too would like to build a family tree of my own, but things to work on further down the road. But we can go into the past by all these different mediums, such as books, whether it be textbooks or just regular literature, movies, especially from like 1800s, 1700s, you keep going on back to like silent movie time, black and white, TV shows, movies, even maps, music, and so many other things can represent how our past used to be, which I feel like a lot of people take for granted because we always are focusing on the present and the future, but we have to also understand that the past plays a huge role on what is to come for the present and the future. And specifically, I did some research, right? I wanted to show you guys some examples of how these mediums can come into play when it comes to telling our past. Obviously, I picked some like local events that are happening in the United States today that I will, I didn't go too far out because I want you guys to be able to be inclined to do your own research because it is important to do research. I don't like when people just hear something. Like, if I tell you guys anything, I hope you guys research what I tell you sometimes. Because, again, some of the things I'd say is just opinion, and a lot of the things I say has factual information from resources. And it takes me a long time to, gather my resources, and I hope you guys do the same. Because if you just hear something, that can't be just your valid truth. That can't be something that you expect to be true just because you heard it from somebody that you listen to or your friend or your family. You have to be able to question and challenge these things that are told to you on a daily basis. Whether you're in school, whether you're out of school, always challenge something. Always do your own research because it's very important to how you interpret things, and as well as knowing the actual truth, because there's many truths. We can all spin our own truths out here. So it really comes down to finding that one universal truth that everyone agrees on, which I don't think we've agreed to that yet, but in time, fingers crossed, we can get to that point. Now, I am a huge music fan, as we have discussed, so one of the three representations of going into the past that I searched up were through music, especially in terms of relevance to today's current climate. I found these three songs that I thought were great in regards to how we're developing as a world, as people. Our first song goes out to Sublime, and their song is April 29th, 1992. To those of you who have not heard this song, essentially what is happening today with the whole BLM movement and black rights, it's very similar because in Los Angeles at the time, riots were going out. So I believe Sublime's song came out in 94, right? I was born that year. Shout out to my 94s. But in 92, Los Angeles was experiencing riots due to police brutality. And you see now today, police brutality is still a huge issue. So let that sink in for a minute. From 1992 to 2020, you got, 18 years? 18 years ago, we were dealing with a very similar police brutality issue then as we are now. Now, of course, it wasn't specifically on... Oh, wait, no, it was. It was based off of African American. His name was Rodney King. He was abused by the police. And then, of course, the police tried, the police were tried, they were held to trial. There was information it was recorded, like the actual incident was recorded by a man known as George Holliday. He recorded the entire altercation, and then from that point on, it was throughout the court system, right? The whole process. It takes forever, especially when it comes into like the law, like the police force. Now, in this moment, riots broke out because once the verdict came out that the police officers who committed the crime were innocent, the whole world broke loose. Now, it's specific in Los Angeles because it was in like low-income areas of LA, which were being the subject to this brutality, like this, injustice. And because of that, buildings were getting burnt down, buildings were getting robbed. Like I said, everything that we see today is reflecting our past. And I'm a firm believer, especially in my old government class, the history repeats itself. And this is like a huge event that is a prime example of history repeating itself. And it's very upsetting to see that even then, 18 years ago, that we still have issues with police brutality. Now, I also want to go ahead and say that if you know a police officer, or if you yourself are a police officer, or you are, in law enforcement, I'm not saying all police are unjust or criminals or are above the law. I do believe that we should support our officers because there are good people out there who actually do their job. I have a lot of friends who actually are police officers, and they do right by the system. Obviously some we can't say the same for, but we always have to be aware that we can't accuse the whole because it's just not right. So just want to throw that out there. We should support our police officers. We should be appreciative of what they do for us, for when they do, if we ever need them, in a time of need. But all things aside, so that was my first example, right? Now living in Detroit, Dearborn, Detroit, I did some research on it as well, because another song called Black Day in July, my apologies, by Gordon Lightfoot, is about the 1967 riots that occurred in Detroit. Now, of course, I learned from that through my anthropology classes, and then when I did some research with one of my professors in school, my undergrad, a lot of the people that I worked with on an urban farm in the city actually lived through that. They were kids when it happened. Now, for those of you who are not aware of the 67 riots, it was a huge influx of African American people coming from the South to the North for job opportunities. And one of the places just happened to be Detroit. Now, segregation was just, going away, or at least so we thought. And when a lot of these people who were, African Americans were coming to work in Detroit, obviously we already know what took place. There was a lot of racism, especially in the workplaces, specifically within the automotive industry, because that's one of the main reasons everyone came to Detroit, was because of the automotive industry. Now, at this time, what initiated the riot was when there was a club throwing a party in the city. It was like a hidden kind of club. I forgot the name of it. You'd have to look into it. But there was a party going on for veterans, and the cops came, shut it down. And of course, as the spectators were watching they arrested them for no reason. They came, and someone threw a bottle in the street. And this is based off of what is said in documents. I know there was a few incidents that took place. I know there was one incident where a civilian died in a bar, and then I know another incident in which this took place, and you'll see this one on like the History Channel. Then a riot broke out, and then from that point on, the rioting just continued until the entire police force was involved, and then the mayor had to reach out to the president, and then the president sent out the National Guard, and then that's pretty much how it played out from then on. Nobody knew what to do because buildings were getting burnt down. The police essentially had no power because of how many people were coming together and fighting these riots. So the president at the time was Lyndon B. Johnson, and he didn't know what to do, and every reports that he was getting from the government officials in Detroit were to essentially, what's the word I'm trying to use? That it was a lost cause. So he sent the National Guard. There was what's the word? Tanks militarizing the streets and trying to maintain the riots. And the people that I have encountered, that I have spoke to, tell me all the time that there was flames, gunshots, there was everything going on. And these were kids. They were kids at the time, locked in their apartments, hoping that they weren't hurt, that nobody came in and broke into their apartment. Nobody came and tried to rob them. No police just barged in and tried to, harm them or their family. And it's super sad because you look at, again, what's happening then and you see what's happening now. Now, at the time, the total estimate of people that had died was 43 individuals. 342 people were injured, and about 1,400 buildings had burned. Now, imagine to see your city just fall down and crumble like that, to see people hurt and injured, all because of race riots. Now, even though people think that racism and segregation is ended today, I'm a firm believer that it is still present amongst black communities, amongst, Hispanic, Latino, amongst Arab Americans. Racism and segregation is still very prominent today. Have we geared in the direction where we can improve it? We have. But again, everything is to an extent, which is something that I hope we aim to improve on. Because when I see Detroit, now it has this huge movement of, businesses coming through. Everyone is trying to improve for the better and so on, and trying to redevelop the buildings. You have your historical landmarks and so on. Now, Detroit has so much history, it's ridiculous. But to also see it and the history of what had happened and the socioeconomic climate, how people live because of those events took place, it's very upsetting and it's very sad to see because people still are living from that, those events. Today, we still see those events in correlation to the 67 riots. Can I say for a fact that it's the exact same, what's the word I'm trying to say? It's the same relationship? No. But at the same time, we haven't learned much since that time till now. And it's crazy because to the people that I know, unless you live in Michigan, no one really knows about the 67 riots. Me, until I moved to Michigan, I didn't know about the riots. It wasn't until that moment that I was like, wow, this is a piece of history that I had no idea about. And, coming from Ohio, obviously I don't need to learn Michigan history, but I feel like this is a huge piece of information that we should know. Same thing about the riots in April 29th in Los Angeles and the LAPD incidents. Things that are occurring then that are literally occurring right in this exact moment. The next song that I picked was a surprise to me because I had no idea that it had any. You hear the song and you just think it's a catchy beat. And of course I did some research on it, and even he himself, the artist, did not know that it was going to be like a huge impact in regards to the social history, not social, but the history of it all. But the song is by Billy Joel, and it's We Didn't Start the Fire. Classic song, great beat, and you just feel, you just want to jam, like punk rock jam. Now, there are many historical events from there, starting back from the 1950s. And again, things that are relevant in his song are so relevant to today, it's disgusting. The first thing that I want to mention was from 1952 to 1955 is when the polio vaccine was just started testing on humans, on individuals. From 52 to 55, 4 million vaccines were handed out, right? So imagine, polio was such a huge disease that was very prominent back then. Polio essentially now is eradicated. You don't see any polio because we have a vaccination for it. Now, although we've done a pretty good job on preventing polio to keep being present, at least within our circles. There are still places in the world where polio is present, so it's not 100% gone, but it is something that we have done a really good job on making sure that in the United States, at least, that we do not have polio. But again, that does not mean that it is 100% eradicated yet. But again, I'm just making a relevant connection between then and now in an important event that took place. Another one that I find very important, which is super interesting because not only did I learn about this in school last semester, but it was also mentioned in his song. There was another drug created that was created in Germany in the 50s. It was called thalidomide. Now, women at the time who were experiencing morning sickness would take thalidomide to help them pass their morning sickness, to make them feel normal again. Now, of course, if a woman has morning sickness, it's typically associated with them having a child. Now, when this was happening, if a woman were to take thalidomide while pregnant, the baby would come out with many birth defects or it would have died. Thalidomide was not banned until 1961. So for something that was occurring in the 50s, specifically 1957, it did not get banned from the United States until 1961. So imagine, right there, you have 4 years of women taking this drug, and it didn't get taken off the market until then. So imagine how many births, how many babies were affected, how many families were affected by this. And again, we don't ever talk about this. I never heard about thalidomide until I took my science, my course here at med school. And I feel like in regards, unless you go into further education, I feel that nobody really is going to know about it until you do that, which I feel like is very unfortunate because it's a part of history that we should know. Instead of just like pushing it aside, pretending like it never happened, it's important to know the things that we came from because it's just like today. They're trying to make a vaccine that is for a virus that we've never seen before, nothing that we've ever experienced, with the potential pressures of them trying to make us take the vaccine. Now, again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but if there's anything that I've learned from school, if there's anything that I've learned from my recent research, is that we shouldn't be so eager to jump onto something. These things take time, these things take research to perfect, to ensure that it is going to be safe for people to use. And of course, trial and error is definitely a huge role in this, outcome of benefits. Sometimes we don't know if we should take that risk or not because it's our health, it's our bodies. And with all the rumors that are stemming from it, I'm not going to talk about said rumors, but with all the rumors, it makes one question and it makes us think. And like I said, be able to question. We should always question. If someone tells you that you have to absolutely do something, question it. Ask them questions. Don't be, irrational. Don't be going crazy on these people. But always question these things. Now, another one, which kind of hit home to me, was in the song he mentioned Palestine. Obviously, he didn't go into whole detail. He just mentioned the state. He would always mention just like segments of each, current event. Specifically, I'm going to share from 65 to 89, from 1965 to 1989, Palestine was removed from maps. Now, I remember growing up in school, there were some maps, depending on if you had your updated maps, in like a classroom, where Palestine was present on the map. For those of you who are not familiar with, Palestine, it is in the Middle East. It is close to Africa. It borders Egypt and Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Now, I have been there. It's my favorite place to go. It's my homeland. It's beautiful. It's Jerusalem is there. Bethlehem is there. Nazareth is there. Palestine is a beautiful historical place, right? Now, it being removed from the maps is like a huge piece of like history being taken from my ancestry, which it's so sad to see that, but at the same time, it's just something that I have to be aware of because the political climate there is also associated with the political climate that we have here. Everything always ties in together some way or somehow. Now, I'm a huge advocate for Palestine, so I want to go ahead and just say that to people. If there's anything about Palestine that you guys do know, share it with others, share it with, me. Or if you aren't familiar with Palestine, do some research on it, because there's a lot of injustices going on there, and a lot of the injustices that take place there is because of, involvement of the United States, but then as well as many other things I won't really go into now because that's not, this episode. But I'm going to go ahead and continue. Now, another honorable mentions that I wanted to put within that song from Billy Joel were, I'm sorry, not from Billy Joel, other artists that I was going to talk about in regards to historical events. We have Great Day for Freedom by Pink Floyd. Love Pink Floyd, huge fan. But Pink Floyd wrote this song, and the song is about the Berlin Wall coming down. That is another piece of history that I feel like people forget. And again, this was also kind of relevant to Palestine issue. But, they built a wall in Palestine. They have a wall trying to get built up on the border of Mexico. Whether you support that or you don't support it, I'm just against the walls in general. So the whole idea of having a wall, to me, is just irrational. And if the Berlin Wall did not teach us something about having walls put up, then I don't know what the whole purpose of the Berlin Wall was. You know what I'm trying to say? So the Berlin Wall was set during the Cold War time, and obviously the wall came down. So what is it about the idea of putting a wall up today is a good idea? But that was an honorable mention. Another one was the song Enola Gray, sung by Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, is about the bomber that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima in August 6, 1945. For those of you who are not familiar with that, it was during World War II when, we were obviously battling Japan as well as Germany and many other. So if you don't know about World War II, please do some research. But that song was talking about the damage done to Hiroshima. And the actual plane was Enola Gray. And the bomb was called Big Boy. There was Big Boy and Little Boy. I believe this one was Big Boy. Or was it Little Boy? I should have did more research on this one. But all things aside, it's talking about as if Enola Gray... So Enola Gray was the mother of the pilot. Now, the pilot named it after his mom, and then, of course, they made the song a representative as the bomb being Little Boy and the mother, and it was like, you just did this to save, your country. You're like to end the war, essentially, but you just killed millions of people, thousands of people, because of you dropping that bomb on an entire village in Japan. So it goes into the whole concept of like right and wrong. Was it the right thing to do, or was it, something that you would be proud of? And like, it goes into, you have to like look into the lyrics. I did a lot of like reading, but that's another honorable mention on that one. And then another one, which actually me and my friend were looking into the other day, which actually I got very emotional because I feel like not too many people support this as they used to back in the day. But it was called Alan Jackson, and the song is called Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? Now, the song was about 9/11. Obviously, 9/11, 2001, I was in first grade, so I don't remember too much about it, which is very unfortunate. Obviously, we supported it as years went on, and you always, talked about it, but I felt like we don't talk about it enough these days. I don't even know if it's taught in schools anymore, which, as it is a part of our history now, it's very unfortunate because when I was watching videos about it the other night, it actually made me super sad. Like, I started crying because hearing the last phone calls of the people who were trapped in the building, watching the videos, watching it as an adult compared to me when I was a kid, I hardly remember it when I was a kid, but when I was watching it now, gosh, the emotions that were just running through me and my friend, we couldn't believe it. It made us super sad. No matter how you feel about it, it's so many lives were lost, and it's something that we should look back on and be we should be thankful for our lives, thankful to be alive, thankful for the progress we have made and how we tried to, come back from that. But stuff like that are moments in time that we've witnessed, we have on video, we have actual accounts of it taking place. So looking back on those moments, we should always take that and apply it to what we can do better for the future. Like I said early on, stop focusing on what our future can be and start working on the things now that we can ensure a better future for us, for our kids, for our families as we go on. So I think that is a huge takeaway that I want to, put out there from this entire topic. Also, I find in like television shows, specifically, I've been watching into Degrassi. For those of you who are familiar with it, I never watched the current one, but like from my time when I was growing up, we had Degrassi Next Generation, and then from when my mom's time, because she told me she used to watch it, and I just started watching, the old Degrassi called Degrassi like Junior High. Now it's so interesting to me to see the topics of importance then to the topics of the importance of what goes on today. A lot of the issues we have today are mental health. A lot of stuff we have today is suicide. A lot of stuff that we see is, depression, a bunch of different things, right? Anxiety, working ourselves till we die kind of thing. But back then, when I watched TV from like at that point in time, it was more about like getting a girlfriend or just becoming class president, lying, cheating, simple things. Believe it or not, teen pregnancy was more of a thing then than it was now. Doing drugs then was a huge thing compared to now. Now you look at like teen pregnancy, and I feel like teen pregnancy is essentially normalized. Doing drugs is a very common practice nowadays. To see that transition, look at, gay rights. In the old school, there wasn't really any talk about homosexual, gay, trans, LGBTQ, none of that. And the Degrassi that I was, and for me growing up, even like up until middle school, I didn't even know what being gay was. I didn't know until high school, until I actually met someone who was gay. So it's that whole transition to, as we progressed, the issues that we have, when did that invisible wall disappear to where we saw these issues to when we started seeing these issues? Which brought me to our next poll question. The issues that we see present today, were they always there back then? Or is it something that has recently developed today? Did they always exist and that they were always just hidden? And then as time went on, everything normalized? What are your guys' opinions when it comes to that? Like, I want to hear what you guys have to say. But that pretty much concludes this topic. So I hope you guys enjoyed our little, blast in the past and, looking forward to the future. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about whether or not we should be working towards our future and how we look into the past. So stay tuned for the highlight and the ending of the show. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the most important part of the episode, of the show, always and forever, the music. Now, we would talk about some musicians and whatnot, but now I want to go ahead and put a song out there that has got me, feeling the love lately. I don't know what it is, but I've been in this 80s zone, going back in the past. So I was like, let me put something on here with a funky fresh beat that sounds like it's from the 80s, right? Now, the artist His name is Ben Rector. The song is It Would Be You. Fabulous. I swear, when you hear it, you just want to start dancing. You just feel like you got the teased hair, leather jacket, and you're about to go to the club and just jam it out. Now, again, it's also got me feeling on like the lovey-dovey side. I'm in a heartfelt place, and I'm lonely. So I want you guys to enjoy the song. So when you hear it, I hope you get off your feet and you bust a move. Here it is. It Would Be You by Ben Rector. Enjoy.
If there was anyone I'd want to spend about 100 days with, laying in the yard, staring up at stars, wondering where all the planes went. It would be you, only you. We might not have forever, no time for taking chances. It would be you, always you. And when the lights go out, we'll just keep on dancing in the dark.
All right, everybody. I hope that song puts you in the mood. Go grab your significant other and your lover and give them a big kiss. And don't be afraid to dance in your kitchen naked with a cup of tea. I only had one today, but, it's still the most important part of the day. And as always, I appreciate the coffee drinkers too. You guys are not the forgotten stepchild. I still acknowledge you. But anyways, thank you guys for joining me on today's episode of Tea Time with Aladdin. I've always loved talking to you guys. You guys are the best. I hope to hear you guys send out some feedback my way, talk about what we've been talking about. Again, I want to thank all my listeners and all the new listeners that I've gathered in the last week or so, and I can't wait to share more fun, interesting topics with you guys down the road. So until then, as always, enjoy your days, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Go out and have some fun. Be kids again. Don't get too crazy. Have some more tea. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a nice day. Peace and love. I'll talk to you guys later.